What's up, everyone? I'm gonna give it a minute, maybe two, for some people to hop in. That way I don't have to, repeat and stuff like that. I should probably mess with some of these features while y'all hop in and everything. Hey, here we go. What's this? Are these filters? Oh my goodness. Oh shoot, wait, that one was a little bit. Okay. Dope. Hey Vicky. Oh. Wow. That's cool. Okay, I might use that one. Wait, I wonder if I could add something right now, but I don't know how. Wait, let me see. Nope. Okay, I don't know. I wanted to put a specific picture. Add photo or video for your background. How do you do that? I'm gonna figure this all out one day. Wow, Instagram, look at you. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna give this one more minute before I start. And I just want y'all to know, like, this is the most complicated function to talk about. So, hope that y'all are ready. The good news is it gets easier from here to understand. Yeah. Hi, Maria. Oh, cool. All right, yeah, we really have some people hopping in. Yeah, so I'm gonna give it like 30 seconds before what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna recap a little bit of last week so that people aren't like too confused and everything. And just in case if you didn't see last week's, it's on my page, and I also have it on my YouTube channel. Yeah, so I'll recap a little bit of last week, and then we're literally just gonna hop like right into the teaching of Introverted Intuition. And depending on how many of y'all are tuned in live and may have questions and everything, I'll answer some questions. And if there isn't any, then that's cool. I'm gonna try to keep these like maybe it's like half an hour. At most, like if it's like really, really popping, an hour. But I don't want to like go over an hour. If anything, when it's like getting to an hour, I'm gonna make it a part 2. So yeah. All right. Well, anyway, it's time to start. So for those who might be coming in late, they're just gonna have to watch the recap. Hey, what's good, man? How you doing? Yeah, it's been a minute. I'm glad that you're tuning in. Hopefully I don't lose you. But all right. What's up, everyone? Today we are going to be talking about Introverted Intuition. The nickname for it, or the shorthand, is NI. So if you hear me saying NI, if you see it in my Instagram posts or whatever, I'm talking about Introverted Intuition. And the nickname for it was given, the nickname for it is Perspectives, and it was given by Personality Hacker. You can actually follow them here on Instagram, and you're gonna find out now why they nicknamed it Perspectives. But just a quick recap, it is a cognitive function, so a mental process. Every type, like we talked about last week, every type has 4 mental processes, and it's not the dichotomies that are E versus I, N versus S, F versus T, J versus P. Those are dichotomies, but the mental processes are called cognitive functions. Sorry. The mental processes are called cognitive functions. And cognitive functions are pretty much the mental processes that we use that we're all born with. There's 8 of them in total, but everybody has 4, and it goes from your dominant, which is your strongest one, your auxiliary or co-pilot, which is your secondary and your second strongest one, your tertiary, which is your third strongest. It operates kind of like at the mental state of a 10-year-old. So you don't want to rely on that. And then your inferior, which is your weakest one. So introverted intuition is the dominant function or the strongest function for the INFJ and the INTJ. It's the second strongest function for the ENFJ and the ENTJ. So all the NJs have introverted intuition as a strength. Then it's third strongest in the ISTP and the ISFP. And then it's lastly strongest in the ESFP and the ESTP. So introverted intuition is only found, at least in the primary cognitive function stack, of INJs, ENJs, ISPs, ESPs. So NJs and SPs. If you're an NJ type or if you're an SP type, then you have introverted intuition in your function stack, and it's always tethered with extroverted sensing, which we're going to talk about next week. So now, what is introverted intuition? Okay, so how many of y'all have probably been in church or something, and the preacher, says an idea or a thought, or says something that springs an idea or a thought. So now you have thought A, then you have thought B, then you have thought C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, all the way down to thought W. Then you're like, wait a minute, how the heck did I get here? So now you retrace your thought process. I can't do the alphabet backwards, but you know what I mean. You retrace that thought process until you get all the way back to thought A. And then you're like, oh, this is how thought A and thought W are correlated, even though it's very loose. So NJ types, and to an extent, SP types, they're doing this all the time. The higher it is in your function stack, the more frequently that you're doing this. And we call this introverted intuition or metacognition. You are thinking about your thoughts. You are zoomed out of your own thoughts and your own perspective, and you're watching your mind form those patterns. So that's why Personality Hacker calls it perspectives, because now in using that and in having those thought processes, you're able to look at yourself and be like, okay, thought A, thought B, thought. So now you're seeing this pattern, and then you see somebody else who is thinking thought G, and you're like L, and they're like, whoa, how did you know that I was about to say that? Or how did you know that this is where the road that I was headed? Or how did you know that, period? And the NJ will be like, I don't know, just a intuitive hunch, So that's how NI works, and that's why a lot of times, if you look online, NJ types, NI types, they're going to get this rep for being mystical and psychic and stuff like that. This is the actual science behind why this is. But because of that, then NJ types, they tend to get very interested in symbolism, so things like, dream interpretation. That's something that, I'm very deep into right now. And future pacing. NI is very heavily about future pacing, because again, if you can now retrace your thought process, and you can see the correlations there, then you're also keeping track of how certain thoughts can lead to certain outcomes. And so now you're able to also understand the dominoes that are being set in certain situations. And if you understand the dominoes that are being set in certain situations, then you're also able to do a better job with planting those dominoes. So now you'll see, these NI users, these NJ types, they're thinking very far in advance about, So the NTJs, they're really good at being able to think far in advance, like making like long-term plans a lot of times. Whereas like the NFJs, they're really good at basically getting in somebody's head, and being able to like perspective shift and like really understanding somebody's perspective and then what somebody might do. So both of these types, these are the stereotypical types of people that you might see in TV shows that they are often like, like Mindhunter, for example. That's a like the guy on there. I think his name is Tom Holden. He's an INFJ, and he's clearly like he's interested in the person's mind. He's understanding it, and then he's using it to be able to understand the pattern of other people's minds. If you watch Death Note, ENTJ, Light Yagami, he's somebody who, in fact, if you watch Death Note, the anime, I know that a lot of people type L as an INTP. I'm working on a video to give my opinion on why I believe that he's actually an INTJ. Despite I understand why people type him as INTP. Like, he looks like the stereotypical INTP and kind of like moves like it. But when you look at the functions that he's using, he's actively using NI and TE, which are the two top functions for an INTJ. And it goes toe-to-toe with ENTJ like Yagami. So this is the anime Death Note, for those of you who don't know. It's a great example of two NTJs going toe-to-toe, and they're constantly using introverted intuition. Like, okay, this is what I would think, and then this is probably going to lead over here, this is probably going to lead over here, so therefore I should probably do this before he does this. It's a whole chess game. So NJs are the stereotypical types to like have like this chess game, this chess play. When you look at Raymond Reddington from The Blacklist, he's an ENFJ, and he's always like creating these situations where people honestly might have to like depend on him for certain types of information. And he's like setting things, and he's predicting like, okay, this is what's going to happen, and this is why this is happening. So NI is always asking the question, why? It's asking, okay, it's pretty much, it sees the ripples that are caused from a rock that's thrown in a pond, and then it's like, oh wow, where did those ripples come from? And it traces those ripples all the way back to the core element of where that rock is. And so that's a symbolic way of like being able to just like, once again, like look at like, okay, why is this happening? And it's looking at the most probable thing that's going to happen. And then it's positioning itself so that it could be prepared for that. Now, for INJs, they're the best at positioning themselves pretty much, so that whatever might happen, then they can receive. Like, for example, if you have watched Game of Thrones, I believe his name was Bran, the guy in the wheelchair, who ended up becoming like this woo type of dude at the end. He was an INFJ, and he positioned himself perfectly throughout the show to like pretty much have something like just fall in his lap, because he was watching the wave and the currents of like how everything was going, so he was able to predict that. Varys was also another INFJ in the show. He just kind of like watched how everything was like taking place, and he was able to predict the moves of other people. And so INJs, they're like really good at being able to like allow things like kind of like fall in their lap and everything. Especially the INFJs, I would say. The INTJs are kind of like the same, but I guess because of the TE, the extroverted thinking, which we're going to talk about in a future thing, but it's pretty much all about getting things done, or like how to attain what you want in life. They know how to pretty much like go after, they put a little bit more effort to go after what they might want, but not always. And then the ENJs are the types that, again, they use introverted intuition as a secondary function. And so they're not only seeing the pattern of other people's minds and how these dominoes are being set, but they're also utilizing their knowledge of that pattern to now create and recreate situations to get what they might want. So now it's like, because that higher SE, they're like, oh, I'm not even just going to sit around and wait for this to fall into my lap. There's going to be a little bit of that. There's going to be a little bit of patience. But actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to recreate situations so that I can get the type of thing that I want. And that's where, a lot of times you'll see these shows with ENJs who are able to manipulate people, because they are actively they have this keen understanding of the person's mind and what they might do and how they might react, how they might respond, in order to get what they might want to gain from that person. So yeah, that is essentially introverted intuition in a very brief nutshell. Like I said, every function covers many different facets, but essentially, they all are they have very different, they have several different facets, and so NI is about symbolism, and it's about future pacing, and it's about getting in the heads of other people. And I think that one last thing that I might even add is pretty much that if you've ever heard the analogy of the 5 blind men and an elephant, this is a perfect way of how NI is able to connect dots. So the analogy is pretty much that there's 5 blind men and they're feeling on various different parts of the elephant. And one of them is like, oh, I feel an ear. The other one's like, oh, I feel a tail. The other one's like, oh, I feel a trunk. They're communicating with each other. And based off of these different parts of the elephant that they're feeling on and communicating with each other, they're able to identify oh, the bigger picture. This is an elephant. That's kind of how introverted intuition works. It takes these little tidbits of things, and then all of a sudden it just kind of swoops, connects them. Then it's just whoa. I think that this happens to me so frequently, that it's just oh, okay. However, I guess one of the most recent examples that I can think of, would be Jamila, my wife. Earlier this week, she said, leave your plans for Sunday night open and available. So I'm like, all right, cool. And usually when she's planning surprises, because I guess I have NI as a higher function, I'm very good at knowing what the surprise is. But because I have SE a little bit higher, I like being surprised. I realize that NI DOMs don't like being surprised, for the most part. And I think it's because that inferior SE, which, again, we'll talk about SE in a future thing in case you don't know. But for me, because I guess I have a little bit higher of SI, what's up now, of SE, then I like being surprised. So when Jamila said, okay, leave your Sunday night open, I did not allow I put a cap on my NI. I was like, don't think about it. You're going to ruin the surprise for yourself. Just distract yourself with something else, And so, yeah, I tried not to think about it. I tried not to ruin the own surprise or whatever. But then Saturday, the day before whatever she was planning, I'm serving at work. And I'm talking to my table and everything, and somehow we end up she ends up bringing up yeah, you sing, right? And I'm like, no, I do not. She's like, wow, I could have sworn that you've served us before, and you talk about how you were singing, and pretty much I ended up telling her the only time that I've sung was pretty much when I was in a musical back in high school. And I was like, have you ever heard of the musical In the Heights? And she was like, oh yeah, I have. And I'm like, yeah, so I sung in that. I played the character Benny when I was, younger and everything. And yeah, that was cool. I really enjoyed the rapping parts more than the singing parts. But yeah, hi Nadine. So yeah, I told her that and everything, and she's like, okay, cool. I come back to the table, and she's like, hey, it's so crazy that you mentioned In the Heights, because my friend literally just texted me saying downtown they're playing In the Heights, all weekend. And I was like, oh, wow, that's crazy. Wait, what, really? She's like, yeah, at the Academy. I'm like, oh, shoot, that's dope. Well, wow, I really would love to go and see that. Is it playing all weekend? Remember, it's Saturday night. And she's like, yeah, I think so. And I'm like, okay. So I go back to my computer, and I'm about to, cash him out and everything. And literally, the dots connect. The blind men on the elephant, all communicate. I'm like, oh, this is an elephant. My mind is like, wait a minute. Tomorrow's the last day. I want to schedule this so that I can, like go and see the play or whatever with Jamila. But wait, tomorrow's Sunday. Tomorrow's the day that Jamila told me to keep Sunday free. Why would she do that? Oh, I wonder if she already knows that In the Heights is in town. Because my mind, that's what I would have probably done. And that's why she's probably keeping Sunday night free. Because she wants me to be available to go to see In the Heights with her because she knows that I would enjoy it. And she's never seen it before, nor she played in it before and everything. And so, yeah, pretty much all of that just hit me within a matter of seconds. And I go back to my table and I'm like, so my wife is probably trying to get me to go to see that tomorrow already. She's like, oh my gosh, oh no, like I ruined the surprise. Like, okay, you have to still act surprised and everything. And yeah, but lo and behold, yesterday, it was great, by the way. And if, it was just great. It was just great. We went, we got all dressed up and everything. And lo and behold, yeah, it was In the Heights that was playing. And although I wasn't like quote unquote surprised, I was still very happy and I still enjoyed the process. Like I still enjoyed it like thoroughly. But yeah, that's just like one example of how Introverted Intuition shows up for an NJ. Pretty much like that's like an everyday kind of example. But there's more advanced ways which I guess we could talk about more in the future, depending on how these live streams kind of go. But yeah, okay, so I think that's everything. I'm gonna give it a minute to make sure if any of you have any additional questions. I know that a lot of y'all came in a little bit late. Sorry about that. I tried to wait for you a little bit. But yeah, any questions, comments, concerns? Neil says NI is anime. I don't think you can necessarily say that because I feel like anime has a lot of FI in it too. Like really challenging you with values, like what do you value? And then TE on top of that, like making tough calls. And yeah, there is a lot of like NI type of shows for sure. Looking at the deeper meaning behind things and stuff like that. It's definitely not, and even SE, whereas like a lot of action going on and like looking at yeah. But anyway, all right, cool. Well, thanks to all of y'all that have tuned in, and I hope that y'all enjoy the rest of your evening. Tune back in next week, Monday, 8 p.m. We will be talking about the flip coin side of NI, which is extroverted sensing, also known as SE, or by personality hacker, sensation. So until then, done.